Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, I have a guest, a great guest, Barbara Lapointe. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Beautiful. Yes, you did.
Good. Thank you. She's a divorce and relationship coach, artist, author, and speaker. She's the co-host of the Broken Families podcast. Barbara is a certified family and divorce coach with neuro-linguistic programming training from Erickson International. She uses a solution-focused coaching, mindfulness, and systemic constellation methodology, formulated by Bert Hellinger, with training in inherited family trauma by Dr. Mark Wolynn, to guide her clients to heal from divorce and family breakdowns. Barbara, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm wonderful and so delighted to be with you today.
Listen, it's my pleasure. And today we got a good topic. It's the epidemic of narcissism. And I think this is an important topic. Barbara, I've been hearing about this particular word over the last year and a half. And if we could start by, first of all, how did you get to the divorce and relationship coaching? What was Barbara's journey like to get here? So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself more.
Oh, that's a relevant question, and thank you for that. It's a great way to start. You know what? Let's be honest. I am the heroine of my own journey, for sure. So I've been coaching, solution-focused coaching since 2013, and in that, there's a lot of value exploration. And so, in a nutshell, when I identified my number one value being freedom, I had an awakening, a deep spiritual awakening. And at that point, I filed for divorce. And so, with eyes wide open, I began to see my ex-partner's true colors and went through a very long, we're talking long, well over 5 years and of a high conflict custody battle, a high conflict divorce, over $1 million spent on legal fees. And that's a low ball, frankly, low ball number. And it was, it broke me. It really broke me. And I got to find out how painful it is to be a recipient of narcissistic abuse and to deal with someone that has no empathy or capacity for love. And that's what victims of narcissistic abuse go through. And so then when I returned to coaching, I was like, okay, I'd like to talk and speak and heal into relationships where there's narcissistic abuse, toxicity, but also really now my practice is very focused on how we can heal. Because when we go through this prolonged period of narcissistic abuse, for example, mine lasted 7 years and I still deal with it on a daily basis. That's a very long time to go through a somatic state of fight or flight, or to deal with, things our body are not really meant to deal with, like abuse over. And that's the special thing about narcissism. It's a long period. It's very pervasive. So we want to make sure that human beings don't get stuck in the victimhood phase, and often they do, and they can't get out. Does that make sense?
No, it definitely makes sense. And I wanted to touch base more on this because it seems, like I said, what you went through, and I'm sorry you went through that, and I'm glad that, you fighting through it and living through it and telling people what to look for and what to and how to react to some of these people. And it's funny, Barbara, because I think, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know I dated a narcissist a couple of years ago, but I didn't know that she was that until, obviously when I did some self-reflection. I sat down by myself and I just started thinking about some of the ways that this relationship just crumbled so quickly. And then I realized that it was, it was all about her. How do I look? Do you like this dress? Don't I look good? It was things like that. When I look forward a couple of years later, I realized, oh my God, I think I was dating a narcissist. I never even thought about it. And when I see that today and I see some of my friends talk about it, it's just amazing maybe is, in your opinion, is the other person not aware of how they're acting? If they're not showing any love or they're not showing any respect for the person, they call it, they start calling them names, whatever they can. They don't take the blame for anything. Is that person not aware of their feelings or their non-feelings towards their loved one?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Narcissism is a spectrum,
Hmm.
and so at its worst, you can actually say that a narcissist is like a robot, like the capacity for that awareness, that loving awareness, for empathy, compassion, collaboration, cooperation is just not there. But it is a spectrum. And you and I have chatted a bit, and you strike me as having a very empathetic energy.
Hmm.
And so, you probably didn't know. And sometimes the empath and the narcissist end up attracting to live out these deep, deep spiritual lessons, because you can really get to a place where you can feel grateful for it all. But walking the path with a narcissist isn't easy, as you found out when your girlfriend was like, me,
Yeah.
and the ego and the self-centeredness, and is part of it. And there's also some other signs of anyone sitting on the spectrum of narcissism, or being a high conflict personality. So you're seeing someone who can't work in collaboration, that wants to be seen or perceived in a certain way. So
Mm.
the ego, a lack of empathy, to me, is the most important symptom. Just having a lack of empathy for any other human being. They often like to be seen as very important or grandiose.
Hmm.
Having an
Yes.
entourage around them, yeah, and that's kind of hurt. You know what? If you're, it's a hurtful way to walk through the world with someone. Having an entourage around them, lots of drama, and then there's the darker things that show up as it evolves, like a narcissist will dominate you, humiliate you, gaslight you, put you down. Human beings often walk away completely bottomed out in terms of their self-esteem after they've been in a relationship with a narcissist.
You hit on the last point, the humiliation and the gaslighting, and the thing is too, and we're talking with Barbara LaPointe, divorce and relationship coach. I think, well, again, let me rephrase that. This woman that I was with, and this is a few years ago, we're talking 3, 4 years ago, also no, I won't say accountability, but this was the most unromantic woman I ever met in my life. There was no, I'm a person that's very affectionate. There was nothing like that in this woman, nothing. In fact, I felt uncomfortable touching her, because again, it was just at that point that I just felt like, you know what? It took a while, Barbara, but I realized that this woman and I weren't going to go any further than maybe a friendship, and not even a friendship. I would just categorize it now as a acquaintance. If I see her on the street, I would say hi, how are you? How's your mother? But I would keep it moving. And that's how I saw it, because this woman was definitely not an affectionate woman. And that's the first person I met, and especially in the female side, that was not, I didn't feel no, I didn't see no romantic bone in her at all.
I really have to give you your kudos for the awareness that you brought to it, that led you forward in your own life. And you see her and you say hi, because you know what, narcissists like her kind of, simply said, energy vampires. So you want to starve them out and just say, hey, how are you? Cheers. And you walk on. And you did that, which is great. I mean, unfortunately, narcissists, and you just explained a great symptom too, is that there's no intimacy with them. So there's no, you mentioned affection, but they are literally incapable of being emotionally intimate. Uh,
Mm.
and if that comes in terms of physical intimacy, so it extends into the bedroom as well, because they could be having sex with any person. It really doesn't matter. You Because there's no intimacy in it, which is an energy of gentleness, an energy of love, and an energy of a deep emotional connection. So they could be having sex with anyone. And when they're abusing you, they could be, it's really not your fault too, because it's not personal. They'd be abusing anyone they were in a relationship. So I think it's important to remember that it's not personal. It's not
Mm.
you.
So it's just that they lack the awareness of what they're doing.
I think for me personally, I feel that that's when it comes into a spectrum.
Mm.
Um, because I think, look, there's a saying that I really love, and it's a quote from the Buddhist Zen monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and he says, "When another person makes you suffer, it's because he suffers deeply within himself." And narcissists are wounded people. Like, let's remember, they're wounded at their core, often stemming from childhood. Now, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not dispensing legal advice, but
Yeah.
they make us suffer, and their core is fragmented, often from their childhood. So
Mm.
there's some perception of awareness. There's different types of narcissism, and you hear about it so much when you start looking at this topic. But whether they're aware or not, and on that spectrum, they're incapable of changing their behavior, and in fact, they have a predictable output of their behavior. So their behavior becomes really predictable. Some other important things to know about a narcissist in their extreme behaviors is that they have these unmanaged emotions. So,
Mm.
anger outbursts, tempers, a range from extreme behaviors, from that stems from all or nothing thinking. So all or nothing thinking is a red flag of these type of high conflict personalities. And then they're always blaming others. So it's never their fault. And
Mm.
it's like, it's your fault, Will, because you weren't, you know, uh, seeking affection in the right way. It's always your fault. So they're always blaming others. And it's frustrating because in the moment you can't win with a narcissist. There is no winning. The only win you can take is doing exactly what you did and just walk forward, and walk away, because when you're playing a game with a narcissist, everyone loses.
Yeah, no, again, I love what you said. They make people suffer, and um, they're they have no emotions, always blaming others. And last but not least, which is probably the top of all this, is no winning against them, And like I said, it took a while, Barbara, and we're
Uh-huh.
talking with Barbara Lapointe, and it took a while, but when I realized that there was going to be nothing more than just more of an acquaintance slash friendship, I walked away, because I realized that there was nothing going to be more than that. I realized that, and it took a while, but I finally walked away. But it was and it wasn't um where I did feel a little down on myself because I could have left earlier and I should have saw the signs, and the signs were there, Barbara, but I ignored it. Or in other words, she did reveal herself a lot, and I listened, but I didn't hear her. And I thought that was one of the biggest mistakes I made, was listening but not hearing it, if that makes sense, because it didn't sink in until later on when I said, you know what, I'm out of here. And I wasn't even upset when I left, because there was no, on my part, there was no emotion, definitely none from her. So it was easy for me to leave, because it wasn't like I fell in love with this woman. I did care about her. I did like her a lot, but I was able to walk away because I figured, you know what the hell? I'm not losing anything.
Good for you. I mean, good for you. There are red signs with these personalities, and you definitely saw some of them. Oftentimes people will get confused in the beginning, cognitive dissonance or shock, or you just don't see it, or you ignore it, as you said.
Yeah, I did
Um,
ignore
right.
it.
I was actually chatting with a woman the other day who's divorcing a very high conflict personality. And I asked her, what's the very worst thing that would happen if you just went no contact with this person who's was displaying a lot of traits of being high conflict or narcissist. Um, so we went through that, and if you don't have children, you can go what they call gray rock or no contact. Um, and that's one strategy for dealing with these personalities. We often don't get it right the first time. It's not easy to do, but you have to kind of not feed the narcissist. You can't play with the monster, and you can't give them their supply, or not narcissistic feeding, it's called. You have to cut the cords, or just go no contact. You just can't feed the drama, because in the beginning, there's all these sort of phases or moments that seduce us of love bombing, not to forget that, it sounds like this woman had some qualities that attracted you into her. And oftentimes narcissists are very charming, and they are very charismatic, and they do have positive qualities. They can even be powerful people. In conflict, a narcissist's heart rate actually slows down. Whereas if you and I were in conflict, or fight or flight, or fight for our lives, or a great battle, our heart rate would speed up, our nervous system would kick in, it would be, our pulse would be going. But it's the opposite for a narcissist. So they're constructed a little bit differently biologically, and it makes them more successful in conflict. Hence, let's be honest, many CEOs are narcissists. Many successful people in the world, in this material world, have these traits, have these conflict traits of narcissism. I mean, if you push a narcissist, they're going to push back, and you need to be kind of prepared for that. But that's your example of dating, I think, is a really, really good one, because that's why this is, in my view, a relevant conversation. It's
I agree.
because you said you didn't even really know. And so even though, and neither did I was 3 years into daily abuse. And I had no idea what was going on. And then someone said, oh, he's a narcissist. And that kind of started me on a whole new journey. And once you see the red flags, you're empowered to walk away.
Yeah.
And once you see the flags, you're empowered to use strategies with these all or none thinking, blaming personalities that strip your soul down in many, many cases, and take huge deposits of your self-esteem. And so there is still a great conversation to have. I mean, the world is aware of narcissism now, even though there's still lots of people like, what, I think that person was a narcissist. But we're seeing more of these personalities in our daily lives. There's more of them developing, and you're seeing them in workplaces. Like your boss could be a narcissist, your coworker, your partner. And we're seeing narcissism in dating, relationships. And frankly, they're embedded in our social systems, our political systems. I mean, it's not even that far stretched to say, watch a movie on Netflix and you're going to hear the term narcissism.
Yeah, no, that's true. I like some of the point. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Barbara. Go ahead, please.
No, like I was just watching the very popular show Yellowstone, and Beth said, hey, she was talking about narcissism. So it's very much a topic that's alive in the collective consciousness. And you know what? I'd like to propose that narcissism, William, is a consciousness. And so if we can bring awareness to that, we can shift and choose a different consciousness, whether that's walking away, or self-healing after being in a relationship with this type of darker energy.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, and some of the points you made, which I love it, always blaming others. The biggest one, again, I go back to it, no winning against a narcissist. Look for the signs, look for the red flags. And I want to touch base on that in a second. something that you said again triggered, probably would trigger all of us, a narcissistic feeding and love bombing. And I remember a couple of my friends were talking about that. We had a discussion about this, and this woman that I know, a friend of mine, she said that she started dating this one guy, and then all of a sudden she just started getting all this love bombing in such a short period of time. And she was like, she found it so weird that it was such early in the relationship. But like you said, they could be very charming, charismatic, and things like that. So I wanted to go back to the red flags. Is it possible that our love for this person or infatuation for this person overrides the signs? In other words, because the way we feel about this person, like I did, I saw the red flags, but I ignored it. Is that the case for most people that date a narcissist, or they don't know they're dating a narcissist, that they ignore the red flag, or like I said before, is that their infatuation or love just blindsides them? Did my
Yes,
question make sense at all?
that's such a good question. I love the real life like examples that you're giving, because to me that love bombing, and it does come early in the relationship, because um it can be, your friend, she was like, oh, that's kind of weird, it's really early, so that is a great red flag. But other times we're like, it can be the most exciting thing to be loved bombed by a
Mm,
narcissist, because it's overwhelming, and it's can be just intoxicating. But the love bombing is quickly followed by they will discard you and then begin the process of devaluing you. So,
right.
and listen, we talked about the partnership of the empath and the narcissist, but also, frankly, most women, generally speaking, that I see in my group and in my practice, have some spectrum of codependency.
Mm,
And when we have codependency, I mean, we want to love that narcissist. We want to fill that void that we may intuitively feel, or our higher self might see, but we're not conscious of it in the present moment. And then we're in it and we're in it. And then we might try and fix them, or, repair them with love and restore them with love, not really understanding, A, that that's not possible, B, that's not our role, but that's part of it.
mm,
You can't make a narcissist see things your way. So that's why I think taking a very mindful and almost a Buddhist approach to healing from a narcissist, at whatever stage you're in, is really good, because you have to detach, surrender, and let go. I can't say to you, Will, that's, it's not loving, it's unkind, or please be affectionate with me, like, because you can't change these personalities. Actually, statistically, these personalities never change, but many human beings, if they don't walk away like you do, they go into the cycle of being a victim and
mm.
trying to fix the narcissist or change the narcissist. They're kind of codependent on that drama a lot. And also too, a lot of narcissists are very, very, very controlling people.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that too. I definitely heard that. Yeah. So that definitely makes sense. Um, I wanted to touch base again on not on the love bombing, but on us being blinded again. Is it because maybe some of us are afraid to lose that person? Because, and I remember I was talking to a buddy of mine about this like a year or so ago, that some people don't want to live or leave a relationship because A, they might think that's the only person for them. B, they don't want to be lonely again. And does that come into play in your studies and in your coaching, where the other person doesn't want to leave? They want to stay with the narcissist because, again, they feel like they might not find somebody else, or this person is perfect for them at this moment. And let's face it, nobody likes to be alone, but how much you're gonna put up with the bullshit? You know what I mean? Sorry for my
Yeah.
language.
Oh, well, and it's so true, because really, if you look at human beings in the world, we all have that the same, we all have the same struggles, really. And no, we don't want to be alone. But I believe that we love our narcissists. You know, we were truly in love with them, and we truly felt special. I'm kind of talking like, you know, just like in a very personal way. But the women I've seen have deeply loved their narcissists that they're with. And so no, they don't want to let go, and they are
Mm,
in and that's why, and you see it too, like it takes many attempts to leave a narcissist, and many attempts just even to go no contact, which is coined as gray rock, because we're trauma bonded with them. Like narcissistic
mm,
abuse is traumatic, and it affects our bodies, it affects our nervous system, our psyche, our energy levels. Women, and I like to use the term humans, but I'm coming more from a female perspective, but I think men go through it equally as much. But humans that go through this have narcissistic abuse, that are trauma bonded with a narcissist. I mean, we're corded into them. That's more of an energetic term.
mm,
Um, we're codependent on them. We've given up our autonomy, our sovereignty. We've given up our personal control, our personal truths. And so that's it. It's the journey back to, how do I step into my truth, speak my truth, face all my fears of being alone, or whatever fears those might be. Most humans have, this isn't the first time, you know, this for them too, just like the narcissist, might stem back to, this is a familiar feeling.
mm.
My mom was a narcissist, or my dad was. Do you know? So that's where you can even make the picture bigger and look at inherited family trauma, because it's stemming from somewhere. There's a core root to the wound that's opened you up to this kind of trauma. And I was going to just briefly mention the side effects if you're in a long-term narcissistic abusive relationship, are really profound as brain damage, high blood pressure,
Mm,
constantly living in a fight or flight somatic state, anxiety, panic attacks. After 5 years, for example, through my divorce, I was constantly threatened with the removal of my daughter,
right.
even though I stay-at-home mom. And I was handling it. And then all of a sudden I started having violent panic attacks. Low self-esteem, fatigue, brain fog. So the physical side effects are profound. Our body just starts talking to us when we're being a container for abuse. Now, having said all that, did I even answer your question, Will?
No, no, you did. You did. No, no, you did. And I'm glad you went off on this. This is perfect. Because again, the last point is the side effects, that we don't even think about. I never thought about it. But I remember when I left this person 2, 3 years ago, I think it's like 3 years ago, I decided to, let me work on myself. Let me not make that same mistake twice. Let me listen and hear a woman speak, and then if I hear the red flags, then either I'm going to put up with it or I'm just going to let it go. So yes, I definitely agree about the side effect. I mean, first of all, Barbara, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. My God, I could talk to you probably for another 2 hours, and I know we're short on time, but before I let you go, just a couple of more things. Talk more about your podcast.
I'd love to. First season was called Broken Families, and now it's called the Healing Broken Families podcast. It's on YouTube and all major streaming platforms like Apple.
Okay.
I also have an ebook on my website, which is barbaralapointe.com, and that is called Erased by a Narcissist, and it's full of tips, uh, helpful points. It's really was written by me to be a helpful resource for anyone dealing with a narcissist. And on my website, I've got tons of free downloads, like divorcing or dating a narcissist, what you need to know, and then those self-healing resources through group coaching with me or one-on-one coaching with me, that gets us out of this victimhood phase, using techniques or using modalities rather, like mindfulness, and moving through these consciousnesses into more enlightened consciousness that provide us with freedom and sovereignties.
Okay. Listen. I definitely want to at least put the ebook on the show notes so this way people could get it. And if you want to talk a little bit more about your coaching program, you could definitely touch base on that.
Sure. Yes. Well, I do one-on-one coaching that takes you from that more of a broken state to really shifting you over through holding a space and the emotional support so that you can feel empowered again, that you can speak and live in your truth and get that emotional support. I also have a fantastic and highly engaged Facebook group that you can find on Facebook by Googling Narcissism 101 for Women. And
Okay.
that will give support to move beyond codependency and narcissistic abuse.
Okay. I'll definitely put that on the show notes. And one more time, where can people find you?
Great. You can reach out anytime to Barbara at barbaralapointe.com.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Barbara, again, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
So great to chat with you. And I wish you all the best in your relationships and your dating.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.